There was a district somewhere in the world. Within it, there was an overbuilt student territory. It continues to exist, by the way. The field is sometimes present at a specific government examination hall in that region, used for competitive entrance tests. It is active during the final 30 minutes of high-stakes examinations, especially when rain threatens but does not yet fall. One look at that hall, and you know everything's there for counting. Rows of desks, rows of bodies, of answer sheets, of futures compressed into silence under a deadline. Outside that hall, parents wait beneath plastic shades, holding water bottles, admission cards, honest prayers, and a heavy politeness of terror. They don't call it terror. They call it preparation, opportunity, discipline, the only way. And inside, the students write. Some write fast, some write slow, some stare at one question for too long. A few calculate not the answer, but the distance between themselves and the life their family has imagined for them. The ceiling fans move the same exhausted air. Invigilators walk between destiny and clerical error. Then, in the final 30 minutes, the field sometimes opens. One student stops writing, and then it begins. The pen is set down, and the breath enters a body that remembers. It was never just an answer sheet. No rebellion, no breakdown. Everything looks the same. But across the hall, something alters. The field ignites. Students continue writing, but the violence leaves their wrists. A girl who had been trembling turns the page slowly and answers only what she truly knows. A boy who was secretly planning to leave the hall and never return home feels the thought loosen, like a knot untied by an absence. Another student skips a question without experiencing it as a failure, thus saving time. The examination continues quite well, apparently. The clocks remain cruel. The marks will still be counted. Some will pass, some will fail, some will be praised, and some will be compared. But for a few minutes, failure lost its teeth, its claim to define the soul. This field appears where education has stopped being initiation and become extraction. The wound is ancient, but its modern form is precise. A child is asked to become proof that the family's suffering was not wasted. A parent's hunger, a village's shame, a nation's anxiety, an entire civilization's fear of falling is folded into one adolescent hand holding a pen. The examination hall concentrates this wound. Here, the student is not merely examined. The lineage is examined through them. Mothers who sold jewelry, fathers who swallowed humiliation, neighbors waiting to compare, teachers waiting to claim credit, the state waiting to sort bodies into usefulness. All sit invisibly inside that answer booklet. This is the hidden mechanism. The child is made to carry the unfinished dignity of the collective. This is why the field had to open. Sacred fire entered through the moment when one student stopped allowing measurement to impersonate destiny. The revelation of this field is severe. Education was once the awakening of the inner instrument. It was meant to refine attention, enhance speech, clarify perception, open memory, and prepare the being for right relation with knowledge. But in the age of exhausted ascent, education became a ladder leaning against fear. The hidden gnosis is this: a society that cannot initiate its young will examine them instead. And the examination will become a counterfeit rite of passage. No sacred elder, no transmission of meaning, only a question paper, a clock, and the unspoken demand, redeem us. In this particular hall, the rite begins to crack. For a brief interval, students become real. They remember that intelligence is not panic. They remember that the future cannot be entered by abandoning the breath. An invigilator is seen in different halls. He wears the ordinary badge of supervision. He checks admit cards, walks quietly, signs where he must sign. But witnesses agree on one thing. He never announces the remaining time with aggression. When others say, "Only 15 minutes left," their voices sharpen the room. But when he says it, the words sound like truth without punishment. Some students report that when he passes their desk, they remember one thing they actually know, not a formula memorized under fear, but something truly learned. A calm relation between two ideas. When the field opens, some students feel grief for the years in which their breath was trained to apologize for existing. One student reported hearing somewhere behind the sternum, "You were never sent here to rescue everyone's unfinished life." Afterward, the student who scores well does not rely on the result. The student who fails does not fully become the failure. The parent who scolds hears their own fear inside the sentence. The teacher who compares pauses halfway through the comparison and cannot complete it with the same authority. This is how the field spreads, through the weakening of false necessity. A civilization that recovers the difference between education and extraction will stop producing brilliant exhaustion and begin producing luminous capacity. Confirmed markers of the sacred fire in that region hall. Sudden slowing of writing speed without loss of accuracy. Students skipping unknown questions without bodily panic. Reduced erasure pressure in the final 20 minutes. Invigilator voice heard as neutral rather than punitive. Parents outside the hall unexpectedly lowering their expectations before results. And one recorded instance of an entire row exhaling together after the clock announcement.